Once again, I'm Sarah Oaktai, and I welcome you to the second part of Meet the Candidates 2012, where we meet two of the three candidates for the school committee. We have two positions open and three candidates. Melissa Murphy is an incumbent, and both Jen Iller and Barry Paulson are both the challengers. Jen Iller cannot be here due to circumstances beyond her control. So as part of our opening part, each of these guys will get a 1 to 2 minute opening statement if they choose to make one, and Alan Reinhardt will be reading a statement from Jen. But we'll start with Melissa, who's directly to my left.
Okay. Thank you to the Civic League, to the people asking questions in the audience and here on the panel, to Jen and Barry. I'm so excited to be running again and have the ability to run again for another 3 years on the school committee. I was elected 3 years ago, and since that time I've had the privilege of serving as the vice chairman all 3 years for the school committee. I'm very proud of our accomplishments over the past 3 years. I think you'll see that we've seen measurable growth in student achievement at all school levels. We have greater fiscal responsibility, greater transparency in our budget process. We have improved communications both within the school and with our families and communities. And most of all, what I'm most proud of is the implementation of our new strategic plan that goes from 2011 through 2016. We continue to have challenges. I know that I can feel very proud of the things that we've done. There's still a lot to do, and I hope to be there to do that. We'll continue to develop strategies with our administrative team that will help us meet the needs of our burgeoning English language learner community, as well as continue to meet the diverse needs of over 1,300 students in the NPS district. I'm reading off my notes because I'm a little nervous, even there's only like 20 of you here, because it's way more than ever come to a school committee meeting. But I really do want to continue to be an integral part and to participate in creating the best school system for my children, who are 12 and 10 in CPS and NES respectively, and for all of Nantucket's children. And I also take great pride in the financial responsibility that the school committee has to all of the Nantucket community. So thank you, and I would appreciate your vote.
Thank you. Barry, thank you so much for being here with us today. Your chance to make an opening statement.
Yes, okay. Well, first of all, my background in education goes back, I guess, over 50 years. When I got out of the service, I taught school for 5 years in what is called a comprehensive high school that dealt a lot with special needs children as well as vocational technical programs. It was a 3,700 student school, and recently, in the last few years after retirement, I've spent a lot of time watching what happens on Nantucket, the evaluations that have been made, the different superintendents that have come in, and only from the outside you hear the rumors and innuendos and the dissatisfactions of parents and so forth. And recently this year, I was able to go through the paperwork to get my certificate and get a substitute job for a couple of months, as well as a teacher aide at a couple times. It was a very brief thing up until the first of this year. In that process, my whole mindset changed. I've had friends here that have families here on the island that have had a lot of comments and so forth of how special needs children and how the various programs worked, and I just had a real change of heart. And I think the experience has motivated me, because I don't know how many of you people out here are retired, but it's a tough duty. It's you got to have something to keep you busy, and beside second childhood diseases that you come down with, that's and I apologize for my voice, because that's where I'm at right now. I've just had an operation, and it's kind of, I don't know how much longer I'll be able to talk, but I just feel that in my experience in the military, in the Marine Corps and the Air Force, flying as a commercial pilot, being in the airline business about 25 years, having a business here on Nantucket, and also dealing in industry, and very, very predatory, competitive industry, of which education and evaluation of the programs that are put into place after they've been implemented rang a bell with me with a lot of the information that I've read about Superintendent Kozert and the various programs that have been put into place here in the last couple of years.
Barry, I'm going to have to stop you on that. You get 2 minutes. You get 2 minutes, and speaking of ringing a bell, we rang a bell about 40 seconds ago.
Okay, am I done?
Yeah, for right
I've had
now.
it, okay.
Not forever, but it's just for the moment. And I didn't get a chance to update everyone.
All right.
Pat Newton's going to be ringing a bell and being our bell keeper. You'll hear one ring when you've got about 10 seconds to go,
Okay.
and then the second ring. But you will get a chance to make a closing statement, and I very much appreciate you both being here, and you'll get a chance to say more. So I'm going to give Alan a chance to read a brief statement by Jen Eller, but unfortunately, of course, you can't be here to answer questions. We weren't able to facilitate a Skype connection easily, and so that's just the way it is. And go, Alan.
Great. Again, I'm reading a statement for Jen Eller. I think Sarah's comment about Skype is an appropriate one. I think maybe next year at Meet the Candidates or whatever, the level of technology will come up to that statement. So anyway, this is a statement from Jen Eller, running for the school committee. First of all, I'd like to apologize for not being here in person to participate in this forum. I was unaware of the event until a week ago and had a prior obligation to be off island this weekend. In support of my campaign, I would like to reinforce the facts that I am a Nantucket native who attended Nantucket Public Schools from kindergarten through 12th grade. I am proud that all 3 of my children are enrolled in the school system this fall. I'm also an elected parent representative on the Nantucket Elementary School Council and an active volunteer within our school system. I feel very confident in the direction that our school is headed with the current administration. My goals are to encourage more parental involvement, a greater sense of community within the 3 schools, and helping to ease the tensions among schools for the students. With these goals in mind, I feel that our schools need to continue to focus on differentiated instruction and look further into offering alternative educational programs, resulting in a more individualized plan for all of our students to reach their highest level of attainment. As a graduate of Nantucket Public Schools and as a parent of enrolled students, I am passionate about the academic goals and well-being of our students, and I am committed to the continued success of the Nantucket Public Schools. Thank you for your time, and please consider me for a position as an upcoming school committee member. Again, thank you from Jen Eller.
Thank you, Alan. And we'll have the same process as before. We'll rotate between both Grant and Jason, and I'll rotate between the 2 of you. Each of you will get 1 minute to answer the questions that are posed by Jason or from Grant. I'm still accepting questions related to the school committee, which is only fair, for these 2 members. So if you out in the audience have a question, we've got 3x5 cards that Pam Lohman is kind enough to hand out. Please keep them appropriate and to the point. And I'll read those interspersed between Grant and Jason's questions. I'll rotate between the 2 of you. If you feel like there's a follow-up, Pat will ring her bell at 50 seconds and then at 1 minute. And, I'll let you go over a few seconds, but not forever. And the first person I'm going to allow to answer a question is Grant.
Okay.
And the first answer will be Melissa, and then to Barry, and vice versa.
I'm going to give you my hard question first, because this is a question that many of us in the community have to wrestle with. When a child's needs can't be met in the classroom, they often have to go off island to a special needs school for kids on the mainland. And this is a significant expense for taxpayers, but it's also a difficult decision for parents to make. And I wonder what your thoughts are on that and how we can make this decision easier for parents. It's hard for me, obviously.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question, Grant. I think that one of the hardest things to witness as a school committee member is when you can't meet the needs of a child in our current school system. And you know, the school committee's responsibilities don't lay in making those decisions or working with the families directly, but they do lay in setting policy to support the best needs of the students, the families, and the district. They do lay in approving the budget so that the administration has the tools that it needs to be as supportive as possible and as creative as possible in coming up with the solutions. I think that one of the things that we can be really proud of in this community is in the building of our administrative team. Our new Director of Special Services, Nancy Miller, has made great effort and great stride in developing programs within the schools to try to keep children here at all costs, and really only having to have the decision to send a child away as a last resort, and that would be the best decision for the child and family for the now and in the future. But it's not one that's ever made lightly or easily by anyone, I imagine.
Thank you. Barry?
Yeah, this is an area that's pretty close to me. There's been and it's not a criticism of the school system. Within the last 5 to 7 years, I think the Judge Pusner has finally made a decision on a case that was brought against originally Governor Romney. Now Governor Patrick has had to implement a new CSA program that has kind of taken over what family services and child services have done in the state. Worcester, Springfield, Boston, which in many cases where there's legislative decisions and funding, they've got the brunt of the talent and the expertise to deal with it and the number of people. Again, Nantucket being tied to the Cape and they unhook them about Labor Day has really suffered a lot, I think, in being able to take care of these kind of children. Every child in the Commonwealth is entitled to a fair and free education. And I could go on about it, but I have very strong feelings and would work very, very hard to deal with special need and not having these kids railroaded off and become stuck kids within the education system when they go into these homes. It's a tremendous expense for people here, and I just will stop at that point.
Melissa, did you want to follow up?
Just a
Sure.
quick follow-up, if I could. I think that, with the case of both dropout rate, if that question comes up, we'll address it specifically, and special needs children, we are an isolated community. And being 30 miles out to sea, we have great challenges to be everything to everybody. Where you see in some schools and districts off island, you could do regional collaborations and share resources. And we really are the single resource to meet the needs of everyone. And I like to remind myself and the public of that, because the burden is incumbent upon us to meet the needs of our children in the most creative way we can, but by ourselves. And we don't have a tremendous amount of outreach that we can do with other people to bring those resources here.
I'll allow Barry another 30 seconds follow-up, too, since Melissa got a chance to speak a little bit more.
Well, I don't disagree at all with what the facilities and the resources are here. In Newton or some other place, you can put a kid on a bus and send him over to another town that has a specialty thing if he's got a hearing problem or a reading problem or dyslexia or whatever. Here, you don't have those. We don't have these services. And but I do believe that there are grants and there are resources within the state to help deal with it here on the island. And I would work very hard to deal with that.
Thank you. Yeah, maybe with the enhanced technology, we can bring some of those experts here, whether or not physically, but online. We've got a question for the audience, and more water for you guys. Yay, how exciting.
Oh, boy.
Bottled water is normally bad, but today we're
First
gonna
class
go with it.
restaurant, yeah.
The next person will be Jason, and Barry will get the first chance to answer.
I'd like to hit on a topic that's, there's been a lot of news nationally about this, teacher evaluations. We saw what happened in New York with all the teacher evaluations being made public. And I'd like you to give your understanding of Nantucket's existing system for evaluating our teachers and whether this is effective and, fairly keeping them accountable for student performance while being fair to them in the assessment.
Well, to be quite honest with you, I'm not very much up to date on the process here. I've been through processes such as these, evaluations, and in different educational situations. For instance, as an airline pilot, you evaluate your co-pilot every day you're flying with them, with reports and whatever and critiques, because he's the next generation of the prime responsibility of the airline. In doing that, there has to be an evaluation process that within the pilot group or the management group, there's a collaboration of what you're looking for to do something, which is the same with a teacher. And after that, a season or a year, then that would be reflected upon to the point that you find out how effective you were in your objectives. And I'm sure that's what happens with the teacher evaluations also.
Okay, thank you. Melissa?
This is a great question because the evaluation of our staff, from teachers to the administration, is really the only benchmark tool we have to make sure that the best information is being delivered to the students in the most effective ways. It's important that the community understand that the current model that we have for teacher evaluations was selected and is part of a negotiated contract with the teachers through the NTA. To go ahead and just change that and say, oh, I want a different model is not possible. It has to be part of the collective bargaining process. But the Department of Education has sort of stepped in over the past couple of years and said that, and President Obama, that they'd like to have a different tool and a more effective and sort of universal tool. We have just adopted a similar tool that was recommended by the DOE for the superintendent's evaluation. And I think we're going to start seeing a greater emphasis on the kind of tool and the thoroughness of the tool so that it is fair from county to county, if you will.
Good. Thank you very much. All righty, the next question will be from Grant, and I'll have Melissa answer it first.
When my son was in elementary school and in middle school here, he had a different principal every year. This was a problem. It seems to have been fixed temporarily, but this is Nantucket. It's a perennial issue. How do we attract good people? How do we keep them here? So could you talk a little bit about that? What steps do we need to take to make sure that the talent gets here and stays here?
I'm pretty sure if I had all of the answers to that question, I wouldn't just be running for school committee. But I have a pretty good sense, and I understand completely what you're talking about. It was one of my greatest concerns when I began running for school committee. There's a lot of factors that go into creating the kind of environment that talented people want to be a part of. We have had tremendous success in the past 3 years in first hiring Mr. Joe Aguirre to take over the elementary school for us, set a great precedent, and gave us some great time to do some research and really thoroughly vet and find a principal who we think is going to be part of this community for a good long time. And that's Kimberly Kubish over at the elementary school. If you haven't met her, you should. And certainly Superintendent Michael Kozort is a wonderful man, a wonderful talent, and an educational leader I think we can be proud of. I don't think that answered your question, but I think that it's a very complex question, probably takes more than 50 seconds to answer.
Well, Barry, give it a try.
Oh, yeah. Well, schools are their own community, and the way that people interact and deal with them, you know, my experience is that it takes time, and sometimes you just don't have the time when the community has to make major changes and to make policies that are going to take place. And the new person that comes in that has to implement these things has to be a very, very talented and diplomatic individual. In industry, obviously, it is different, but I think not only the faculty but the children recognize who is going to be successful in dealing with not only the faculty but the student body. Could that mean I can skip this one?
You get 10 seconds.
No, but I just feel that you know, there's been an awful lot of people move through here, and I've recognized it only through the newspapers, and I feel it's very difficult. But I think that from what I've seen of Superintendent Kozort, he's very effective.
Okay. Do you want to follow up? I'll allow
I think
each
just
of you
a quick
short
follow-up, if we could. Thank you, Sarah. Is that, you know, there's a culture and a community of trust that needs to be established, and that has to be in all the different facets, both from the parents, the schools, the administration, the school committee. And it takes a lot of difficult conversation, tackling some big issues, and an open and honest environment to get to a place where you can start to address some of the things that maybe were creating some of the fractures that left an instability. And to create stability takes time and commitment. And I think right now I don't have the cards to see what the future holds, but I think I have great faith in our administrative team, from Superintendent Kozort, Scott Meadows at the middle school, John Bucky and Kim Kubish. They're fantastic.
Thank you. Barry?
Well, I can't agree more with what has been said by Melissa. I think that I guess I'm without words because I'm not involved directly in the school committee at this time and with the faculties. I look at the faculty from a school teacher's standpoint, and I know that right now the evaluations that are going to be done and put together between the parents, the faculty, the administration, and the superintendents, and including, I guess, the student body. This is a process that's going to be happening under this new program that Melissa was working with. And it'll be interesting to see how Superintendent Kozort can pull this together and make it work a little better than it has been before. But again, it's going to take time for reflection after these things have been implemented. And that's all I...
Thank you. Jason, you get the next question, and then I have one from the audience I'm going to ask.
Okay, thanks.
And Barry will be the first respondent.
Schools in Massachusetts were mandated to develop protocols to investigate bullying in schools, and I think this is a big problem that's finally getting the attention that it really deserves. And I'm curious how big of a problem you see bullying in Nantucket Public Schools, and the plan that was developed. Is it effective? Is it appropriate? Does it need to be changed in any way?
Well, apparently it's, from what I have seen, it's more or less under control. I've been close to one bullying situation here on the island, but I've also had a lot of my friends who are that aren't in the airline business have gone into the teacher aid and the substitute programs and special education, and in certain parts of the Massachusetts, it's a real problem. And there's all kinds of pamphlets and tell everybody and do this and that, and And apparently Nantucket is pretty effective at it from what I've seen, because I don't see anything directly that when I was in the classroom very briefly that I saw very much of it. And I've been in other school systems where it becomes very obvious and it's a real problem.
Thank you. Melissa?
We just had a wonderful update on some instances of bullying, and we're very proud to be able to say that the incidences of bullying are relatively low at the Nantucket Public School District. And how we collect that data is because of a new bullying policy that the school committee adopted last year. It was a requirement from the state to adopt this policy. And it gives us a tool with which we can measure these incidences through all 3 schools. Bullying is identified very specifically and is different than conflicts, student conflicts, and student conflicts being something that you could identify that can require on-the-ground resolution through behavioral health services, as opposed to bullying, which may require the same resolution but further investigation. So we have low incidences that we can say we've measured, but I think it's one of those cases where every incident is taken very seriously by the entire staff and certainly by the school committee, because if further policy needs to be developed to support these, to broaden it, then we have to do that, and we have our finger on the pulse of it, I'm pretty sure.
Okay, thank you. The next question I'll ask from a person in the audience, and we'll start with Melissa and have you give us your answer, and then Barry. What would you do to get the community more involved with the school? It's a good question.
It's a great question. I'd like to ask the community what they would like to see to become more involved in the schools. I think that we do a tremendous amount of outreach. I'm sure there's some things that we can do better. In our strategic plan, we have an entire community partnership section of the strategic plan, which has targeted, measurable things that we can try to do to engage the community in the school system. It's interesting because in my 3 years on the committee, it came in at sort of a contentious time, if you will, and things have really, the ship has started to sort of right itself a bit, and community interest in the school. I don't hear people talking about a lot of the good things that are going on. Attendance at the meetings has dropped. So where we take engaging the community very seriously, I do really think it's important that the community want to engage back with us and be involved in what's happening at the school districts.
Thank you. Barry?
Well, I think this is not something that you start in the middle, I believe. I look at one of the programs that the superintendent is implementing with the ELL program, with involving the families and the students and the community. It's a new area of, well, we got something like 113 or so new students that are going to be entering into the school system that are not, fully English or language oriented. Now, I think that more things where the families are involved with the schools at that level, at the entry level, so that when they're in the 3rd and the 4th grade, it's not identified that they're a problem that should have been dealt with earlier. And I just think that there's a good opportunity to have a new broom sweeping the hallways here.
May I do a quick follow-up, 10 seconds maybe?
Okay, 10 seconds,
Really
but both
quick.
of you get 10.
I do think that there are a lot of things. We have a tremendous amount of talent coming in and lending their resources through the NHA, Mariah Mitchell, volunteers in the community are coming in and lending their services to the schools. So I think we have a lot of community partnerships that have ability to grow and connections that are really strong and benefiting the students directly.
Including the field station. Okay, Barry,
Yes,
10
including the field
seconds.
station.
Anything else to add?
No, I just, like I say, I just think that this is another area. I'm not familiar with all the other areas that she's mentioning, but at this elementary level, to get children and families involved in the school, it lasts throughout their career in the schools. And I think this is a good opportunity to start at this level.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, so we'll go back to our panelists. And this should be Grant's question.
Okay. As we all know, teachers are not the most highly paid people in the workforce. And it appears that teachers will be taking, in addition to all public employees, teachers will be taking an additional hit of having to pay more for their health insurance. Now, how do we keep this from having a profound impact on the quality of the people who want to be teachers on Nantucket and on the quality of the education our children receive?
Melissa, you'll start first.
Oh, sure. I don't know that I have the direct answer to that. I think that the resources and the negotiations and salary I agree with you. I think that teachers can be one of the most underpaid public servants for the product they provide to us. But I think that through the bargaining process, through communication, through sound investment on the part of the administration into other ways to support teachers professionally, I think we can come up, we'll continue to have conversations and come up with ideas that will keep people interested in being teachers, because I hear that a little bit in the question, and I think that the teachers that we have here we can be very proud of. We certainly don't want to create additional struggle for them. We're in a difficult economy, and so we're going to have some difficult questions and conversations.
Thank you. Okay, Barry?
Yeah, I have not been aware of, nor have been a participant in the negotiation either through the union or the contracts that exist with health care or, further education for the teachers or anything like that. But, I personally feel that this is one of the best places in the world that somebody could come to teach. I mean, this is to me, a fantasy land of opportunity. And the salaries that are here with the teachers for the average 12-month individual here are really pretty good. I mean, I'm not downing the teachers' salaries or anything, except I have to go back and say that my first year of teaching in Florida was $4,400 for 10 months. And it's a lot better today than it was then. But I wanted to teach at that time. And if teachers want to be there, I think they get a fair share.
We'll have the next question from Jason, and then just one final question each from Jason and Grant. So I wanted to give you guys a heads up. Are there any burning questions from the audience? Because now's your last chance. Okay, Jason, your chance, and then Barry, you'll answer it first, and then we'll have one more round from each of these, and then your all's closing statements.
I can just barely hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Jason's going to ask a question, and Barry, you'll be the first to respond, and then they'll each have one more question, and then your closing statements.
Fine.
Thanks. The school committee has a similar role in evaluating the superintendent like the Board of Selectmen do the town manager. So I was hoping you could give your assessment of Superintendent Kozort, the evaluation process that the school committee has, and after a couple years of a lot of turmoil, are things really as good as they seem right now?
Okay.
Well, again, from my short personal experience in the school system and conversations with various people that are in a position of much more knowledge than I am, really, I feel a very, very positive reflection of what has happened here now. About 3 years ago, you had an evaluation by 3 major educational people on Nantucket. Nantucket did not get a glowing review. And whoever the search committees were that selected Superintendent Kozort should be congratulated, because I think there's been an overview of a very successful administrator. And
Okay. Thank you, Melissa.
Oh, that I had 10 minutes to wax on about all of the wonderful things that make up Superintendent Kozort, and I'm glad he's not here to look at me and shake his head and tell me not to say any of them, because He is a very humble man. In Superintendent Kozort, we have found an exceptional educational leader for this community, one we should all be very proud of. Our evaluation process, the superintendent is the only public official in the state of Massachusetts who has to be evaluated in public. We just had our evaluation of Superintendent Kozort last week, I believe the meeting was, and I think that you'll find that the entire committee felt that the school was heading in a very strong direction, that there are continue to be challenges for us, but we feel that in him we have a wonderful leader who is organized, communicates well, and most importantly, cares very much about every child in that system.
Thank you. I'd echo that. Okay, one question each, starting with Grant. Melissa will answer this question first, and then one from Jason for Barry.
The school committee's charge is pretty specific. It's to manage the budget, to set policy, and to evaluate the superintendent. Which of those three things do you feel you bring the most expertise and skill?
Sure. There's a couple of other ones we get to do, which is approving educational policy, which I was part of a subcommittee that reviewed our policy manual that had not had a thorough review in quite some time. We contracted with the Massachusetts Association of School Committees and reviewed. I'm happy to say, I'm proud to say I've read every single page of the policy manual, which if you ever can't sleep at night, just pick up a copy because it's a surefire way to fall asleep. So I have an intimate knowledge of the policies, and I'm proud of that work, and I'm proud to continue to be a part of that. We also review the curriculum and make recommendations in adopting the curriculum after review, and that's exceptional to be a part of, watching our goals as a district to more seamlessly integrate vertical communication and curriculum alignment in the district. That's an important goal for me. And I also think that the evaluation of the superintendent and setting those goals with him and for our district are ones that I have a great deal of experience on. So, thanks.
Thank you. Barry?
Well, we're talking about, I'm not familiar with this type of thing, with this evaluation that was made, such as Melissa. I know that it was mentioned in one of the meetings that I went to. I've read information on it in the various minutes and so forth. But it is, you know, it is what it is, and I think the superintendent has come out with very good grades as far as people within the Department of Education and various overseers of this process. So that's really all I have to say.
Okay, thank you. Jason, last question, and we'll start with Barry.
Okay, thank you. You both touched on this a little bit, but I was hoping to talk about it some more. The school's English Language Learner Program, it used to be ESL, but now ELL. Talk about, you know, what a challenge this is with such a large and growing population that is a part of this program. The challenges, both budgetary and socially, at the school with that program and the school population.
Thank you. Barry?
Well, from what I've read, and again, it's as new to me as I think it is to most people in the system. I think by addressing it at this point, that they've really have the opportunity again to start in with a new broom is the way I talk about it, but it's just a common sense explanation that the demographics of Nantucket have just changed so rapidly in the last 3 or 4 years, and it has to be addressed. The Commonwealth has to be able to provide an education for these people who are not up to speed or whatever. Once they're citizens of the Commonwealth, they have to be dealt with. And I think that I think this program is going to be very good for the entire school system, because you're going to deal with it for the next 12 years that are coming in here. And I understand also that the teachers, there's going to be assistance in teachers being able to become bilingual or in some way, because it's a pretty good challenge.
Thank you. Melissa?
Just to make sure I understand your question, we're talking about sort of how we're going to meet the needs and address this. And there's no silver bullet answer. Some of the challenges we have, just to give you all in the audience an example, is in some instances, almost half of our incoming kindergarten students don't speak English and have never had any preschool experience. So in addition to the challenge of communicating with them in the kindergarten classroom, you also have the challenge of facilitating just basic learning of how to be in the school environment. Pauline Proch and her team at the community school saw the challenges in that and worked very hard and wrote some grants to create a program called the Summer Boost Program, where they got some funding to bring these children in the summer and begin to teach them English and begin to give them basic skills about how to integrate into the classroom. This is one example of the kinds of challenges we're facing and the kinds of solutions we're thinking of in the school district.
Okay, thank you. Now's your chance to make I'm going to give you 2 minutes because we've had a shortened question session here. 2-minute closing statement, kind of address some of the reasons why you're running for school committee and what you hope to bring. We have 2 positions open with 3 candidates. Once again, we have Melissa Murphy as the incumbent and Jen Iller and Barry Paulson as the 2 challengers. And after they're done, I'll have a brief statement. Al will have a very brief statement, and then we'll all finally get a chance to eat and talk together.
Great. Well, thank you again to everyone for being here and for the Civic League for putting this on. I am a 1993 graduate of Nantucket High School. I'm not a Nantucket native, but I moved here in 2nd grade and went on to go to college and live other places and settled back here about 3.5 years ago with my husband and our 2 children. It is a great honor and privilege for me to participate in the school committee and give back to this community that has given me and continues to give me so much. The strategic plan of the school district has just been rewritten, and we came up with a new mission. And I'd just like to read it. It says, to engage students in a process of learning and discovery that cultivates their unique strengths and talents, meets their diverse needs, and promotes social responsibility. I think that's a mission that I myself take seriously in raising my own children, and I'm really honored to have the time. Thank you to my employer for giving me such time, the time and my family, the impetus to be a part of seeing that vision through for all of the students in the district. Very lucky to work with some other wonderful committee members and a fantastic administrative team. And I would like to stay on the committee for the next 3 years to see where else we can go now that it's not quite so turbulent. Thanks again, and I'd appreciate your vote in the next couple of weeks.
Thank you so much. Barry?
Yes. I'm kind of at a loss for words for this, is because my impetus in being interested in the school committee has blossomed at a very late age, and there's been some incidences that I have been talking a lot with my daughter in Florida, and I have a granddaughter that is having a lot of trouble getting through college. And I had a lot of trouble because I was dyslexic and unruly, and before they determined ADHD was a situation, I was one, you know. So anyway, I you know, in reflection, there's one of the things, I get along well with children. I have a lot of impetus for the kids that are coming into the school system now and the opportunities that they have. I'm more so probably from not being in the academic aspect of it, but more for the technical vocational situations that I've seen in a couple of cases in this school that are very successful. You have one program here that wins awards all over the place, and I know kids that were deemed special needs children, and non-achievers that have achieved and graduated from post-high school programs as a result of a couple of programs that are here in this high school. There needs to be more of that. And that's one of my challenges, and also with the special needs children, also emotional and physical. And I would like to just ask you for my vote. I'll work hard at it, and I've spent an awful lot of time researching some of the new laws and the things in the Commonwealth, but it's a lot of academics that somebody on the ground has got to put into a working situation. And I would like to be a part of that and ask you for your vote. And thank you very much for taking the time today.
Thank you both very much, and thanks to all of our candidates and our panelists who brought some excellent questions here. Both TV stations, Geno TV and the new PEG channel, Nantucket Community Television, Channel 17, and to the audience for providing questions and for taking the time to come here today to help shape our local government. Don't forget to go to the polls on April 10th, or if you're unable to go, like I'll have to vote, I won't be here, so I will be going down to the clerk's office and voting in absentia. So if for any reason you're not going to be here on Island on the 10th, definitely take care of that. Don't forget to go to town meeting on March 31st, next Saturday from 8:30 until 5 or whenever. I'd like to turn over the podium to Ellen Reinhardt, and please stick around and help speak to the candidates, express some of the questions that I didn't have time to get to, and thanks for participating in this event.
I think this program well illustrates what the Civic League is all about. The Nantucket Civic League was formed to bring forward these issues into the community is through programs such as this, Meet the Candidates, Meet the Articles, and the other forums that we sponsor, that we try to generate interest on the part of the community on issues that are important to the community. So again, thank you for coming. Don't forget to vote. Sarah's point about absentee voting is I think, very important. Remember, it only takes 1 or 2 votes to swing an election sometimes. So get out there, vote, and don't forget town meeting on next weekend, next Saturday. Great. Thank you for coming.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Guys, thank you so much.
Good job to you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Sorry for getting